Niger Delta, May 28, 2013, just after sunset. A South African diver named Nico van Heerden swims through the flooded engineer's cabin of a tugboat lying upside down on the ocean floor. He has come to recover the bodies of the crew. A hand reaches out of the dark and closes around his wrist. The hand belongs to the ship's cook. His name is Harrison Okene. He is 29 years old. He has been alone inside the sunken tugboat for 62 hours. The other 11 members of his crew are dead. The contract is a body recovery mission. Nobody is supposed to be alive down here. The wreck is 100 feet underwater. The air pocket Okene has been breathing is 1.5 meters wide. He is wearing boxer shorts. 400 kilometers away in Lagos, his wife, who has not heard from him in 3 days, is finalizing the seating chart for his funeral. How does a ship's cook in his underwear stay alive for 62 hours at the bottom of the Atlantic, when every physiology textbook says the air should have run out after 15? And what does Nico van Heerden tell his support team on the surface in the next 4 seconds, when he realizes the hand he is holding is not the hand of a corpse? Harrison Okene, born March 1984, Warri, Nigeria. His father drove a truck. His mother sold fabric at the Central Market. Harrison finished secondary school in 2003. He did not go to university. In 2011, he was hired at 27 as a steward and cook on a tugboat operated by West African Ventures, a marine services contractor working for Chevron and Shell on the offshore platforms of the Niger Delta. The tugboat was the Jascon 4. The job paid $1,200 a month. For a married man from Warri with no university degree, it was a transforming amount of money. Okene had married a year earlier. His wife was named Okene. They had no children yet. He was a cook, not a sailor. His job on the boat was 3 meals a day for the 12-man crew. He had never been more than 12 nautical miles from shore. On the morning of May 22, 2013, his wife drove him to the bus station in Warri. He kissed her on both cheeks. He told her he would call when the tugboat docked off Bayelsa. He did not call. On the night of May 25th, he served the evening meal at 6 o'clock, washed the kitchen, and went to bed. The cabin door, by company protocol, was locked from inside. In the Niger Delta in 2013, the protocol existed because of piracy. It was the reason Harrison Okene was alive 48 hours later. It was also the reason 11 other men were not. 4:15 in the morning on May 26th, an Atlantic squall arrived. The wind shifted 30 degrees. The sea state went from moderate to severe within 12 minutes. A 6-meter rogue wave hit the Jascon 4 from the port side at 4:30. The towing cable snapped at the bow. The tugboat capsized within 9 seconds. The boat went from level to upside down so quickly that the men sleeping in the lower deck cabins did not understand what was happening until the water was above their bunks. 11 of the cabin doors were locked from inside. Harrison Okene was in the bathroom adjacent to his cabin. He had gotten up at 4:20 because he had drunk too much water before bed. He was, at the moment of capsizing, sitting on the toilet. The boat rolled. The water came up through the floor drain. Within 4 seconds, the bathroom was upside down and full of water. Okene was thrown against what had been the ceiling, which was now the floor. He hit something solid in the dark. He grabbed it. For the first half second, he thought it was the body of one of his colleagues. It was a door frame. He pulled himself through. He was screaming his wife's name. For the next 12 hours, the world above the surface would believe that the Jascon 4 had sunk with all 12 men on board. For the next 62 hours, exactly one of them would still be inside it. The bathroom Okene was thrown into had not completely filled with water. A column of air, approximately 1.5 meters high, 2 meters long, had been trapped against what was now the ceiling. Okene moved through the dark on his hands and knees, his head above the waterline, into the engineer's cabin. The water was up to his sternum. The air pocket above was slightly larger. He found the metal bunk frame. He climbed onto it. He sat with his head 1 inch from the ceiling. The tugboat had been upside down for 10 minutes. He was wearing only boxer shorts. The water temperature was 22 degrees Celsius, 7 degrees below his body's core temperature. His body began to lose heat at 25 times the rate it would have lost in air. In the dark, he began to shake. Within an hour, the shaking stopped. The body, when it has been cold long enough, stops trying to warm itself. He felt around in the dark. His hand encountered something soft and floating, a foam mattress. He pulled it under him. He folded it in half. He climbed onto it. By the end of the first day, his feet had no feeling. He found a Coca-Cola bottle on a shelf. He made it last 18 hours. In the dark, he began to pray. He prayed the 23rd Psalm. He spoke aloud in Pidgin English. "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." He prayed it 27 times in a row before he stopped to listen for sounds. The sounds were the worst part. He could hear, through the metal walls, the structural noises of a ship being crushed by water pressure at 30 meters. The walls creaked. The floor, which was the ceiling, popped at irregular intervals. He could also hear something else. In the cabins on the other side of the bulkhead, where 11 of his colleagues had been trapped behind locked doors when the water came in, the marine life of the Niger Delta had already arrived. He understood, after the 3rd hour of it, what the sound was. He pressed his hands against his ears. The sound continued inside his head. It did not stop for the next 2 days. He thought, on the 2nd night, about his wife. He did not know whether she had been told yet. He hoped she had not. He hoped that, if she had been told, she had not yet begun to plan. On the morning of the 3rd day, the sounds in the next compartment stopped. He thought, for the first time, that this was the worst news he had heard yet. He did not stop praying. By every calculation the engineers performed after the recovery, Harrison Okene should not have been alive. A human, at rest, consumes half a liter of oxygen per minute. An air pocket the size Okene was breathing contains, at the surface, approximately 14 hours of oxygen for one person. He was breathing for 62. 3 things saved him. The first was pressure. At 30 meters underwater, the surrounding pressure is 4 atmospheres. The same volume of air contains 4 times as many molecules of oxygen. The math, recalculated for depth, gave him approximately 56 hours. The second was the water itself. Cold seawater absorbs carbon dioxide. The surface of the water in the cabin was constantly in motion, pushed by his small movements, by tidal action through the hull. It functioned as a chemical scrubber, removing about 60% of the carbon dioxide he exhaled. The third was Okene himself. He had no training. He did not move. He prayed in a whisper. His oxygen consumption was approximately 40% of normal resting metabolism. Pressure multiplied his oxygen. The water removed his carbon dioxide. His stillness reduced what he needed. He did not know any of this. He was certain, by the end of the 2nd day, that he was going to die. He had begun to dictate, in the dark, his last message to his wife, quietly, into the air, in the direction he thought Wari was. The dive team arrived 9 hours later. The contract to recover the Jascon 4 had been awarded to DCN Diving on May 27th, approximately 20 hours after the boat went down. The contract was specific. Recover the wreck, if possible. Recover the bodies, if not. 12 bodies were expected. The DCN team arrived at the wreck site at 4 in the morning on May 28th. The lead diver was Nico van Heerden, 32 years old. 11 years of commercial diving. He had recovered 17 bodies in 5 years. He did not, in general, expect to recover anything alive. He entered the wreck at 1400 hours. Visibility was approximately 2 meters. He recovered 3 bodies in the first hour. He arrived at the engineer's cabin at 1510. The cabin was, by his initial visual sweep, empty. He turned around to leave. He was 30 seconds from radioing the surface that the room was clear. A hand emerged from the dark and closed around his wrist. What Van Heerden said on his open intercom in the following 4 seconds is preserved on the surface support vessel's recording. "There's a man. There's a man. He's alive." The surface controller replied with the standard verification protocol. "Confirm. You have a live person." Van Heerden: "Confirmed. He is breathing. He is conscious. He is holding my hand." The controller, after a pause of 7 seconds, replied, "Stand by. We are scrambling." The scrambling was the activation of the surface emergency response, which had, until that moment, been configured for body recovery and now had to be reconfigured in real time for a live extraction. Okene, in the cabin, was looking at Van Heerden's helmet light without speaking. His fingers, when Van Heerden later examined them, were entirely white. The pads had wrinkled into thin, overlapping ridges that resembled, in his description, the surface of a brain. His first audible word, when Van Heerden's voice reached him through the diving mask the surface team lowered into the air pocket, was the question Okene had been waiting 62 hours to ask. "Are the others alive?" Van Heerden lied. He told Okene that the dive team had not yet completed its survey. He told him there was still hope. Okene closed his eyes. He did not ask again. The surface team lowered a second diving helmet through the wreck. Van Heerden positioned it inside the air pocket. He fitted it over Okene's head. Through the visor of the helmet, the two men were now looking at each other from a distance of approximately 15 centimeters. It was the first human face Harrison Okene had seen for 62 hours. He began to cry. Van Heerden, on the open intercom, preserved on the same recording, said one sentence to his surface controller: "Stay off this channel." Bringing Harrison Okene to the surface was approximately 8 times more dangerous than leaving him at the bottom. The pressure he had been breathing for 62 hours had saturated his bloodstream with nitrogen at 4 times its normal concentration. If he was brought to the surface directly, the nitrogen would form bubbles in his blood vessels and he would die of decompression sickness. The standard schedule for his exposure was approximately 60 hours of staged pressure reduction. The DCN team had brought a hyperbaric stretcher. They put Okene into it at 1540. They sealed it while it was still at 30 meters of depth. The ascent took 6 hours. When the chamber reached the surface vessel, it was transferred, under pressure, into the larger decompression chamber on board. For the next 60 hours, while the pressure was reduced at a rate of 1/10 of an atmosphere per hour, Okene lived inside a steel tube 2 meters long and 1 meter wide. He was given water through a small airlock, soft food twice a day. He was given, on the second day, a satellite phone. The first call he made was to his wife. Akpevweogene Okene was, at that moment, at the church in Wari where she had been organizing his funeral service. The service was scheduled for the following Saturday. She had ordered the casket. She had selected the flowers. She had written, by hand, 78 invitations. She had, by 10 in the morning the previous day, called the bank to close his account. She had, that morning, finalized the obituary that would run in the church newsletter. The phone in her purse rang at 1:40 in the afternoon on May 29th. She did not recognize the number. She answered it anyway. Her husband's voice, distorted by the helium-rich atmosphere of the decompression chamber, said one sentence.
Akpewe, it is me. I am alive.
She did not respond for 20 seconds. When she did, the first words were not addressed to him. She said to the woman standing next to her, "Stop the casket. Stop the casket. Stop the casket." The woman, who did not understand who was on the phone, took her by the shoulders. Akpevweogene Okene handed her the phone without speaking and walked out into the church parking lot. She did not move for 40 minutes. Harrison Okene walked out of the DCN decompression chamber at 8 in the morning on May 31st, 2013. He had been at depth for 62 hours and in the chamber for 60 more. He weighed 9 kilograms less than he had at the start of his shift. He was given a medical examination. The findings: hypothermia, damage to his feet, recoverable; pressure damage to both ears, partially recoverable; clinical post-traumatic stress, untreated. He was flown to Port Harcourt, given $15,000 and a ticket to Wari. His wife met him at the Wari bus terminal on the evening of May 31st. They did not embrace immediately. She walked toward him. She stopped 2 meters away. She looked at him for what she later estimated was 3 minutes. Then she said, "I need to see you stand up tomorrow morning before I will believe it is you." Okene stood up the next morning. For the next 2 years, he did not work. The post-traumatic stress was severe. He woke up screaming approximately 3 times a week. The dreams were always the same. He was sleeping in a bed. The bed began to sink. The water came up through the mattress. He could not get out. He refused, for 2 years, to enter any body of water deeper than a bathtub. In May 2015, exactly 2 years after the sinking, Harrison Okene drove from Wari to Cape Town. He paid the application fee for the Crowley, South Africa Commercial Diving School out of his savings. The course took 14 months. Okene completed it on October 18, 2016. He returned to Wari as a certified commercial diver. His first contract, February 2017, was a body recovery mission off Angola. A cargo vessel had sunk with 3 bodies inside. Okene recovered all 3. He was asked, when he gave his first international interview to the BBC in 2018, whether he had thought, during the recovery, about his own time in the Jascon 4. He said,
"Every time I go down, I think about it. Every time I come back up, I think about it."
He was asked whether he would do the work again. He said,
"Someone has to bring them home. The next time, I want it to be someone who knows what it is to wait down there."
Akpevwe Okene has, by her husband's request, given exactly 1 public interview in the 12 years since the sinking. She gave it to a Channel 4 documentary crew in 2018. She was asked what she had thought when her husband had called her from the decompression chamber. She said,
"I thought God was testing me, and then I heard him breathe.
She paused.
I knew the way he breathes. I had been listening to it for 3 years. He was alive."
Harrison Okene has, by his own count, completed more than 30 body recovery missions since 2017. The 23rd Psalm is still the first prayer he says before he goes down. He has not, in the 12 years since the Jascon 4, returned to cooking.